Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from Tharusha Fernando who asks, "Hey Ramsey, what do you think about this?" and then sends me a link to this video about Bruce Lee titled something along the lines of World Records set by Bruce Lee World Records that have never been broken. And what follows is a bunch of wild crap that they pulled out of their butts anyway, that has absolutely nothing to do with real world records. So Tharusha says, "I think most of this is 100% myths, nearly almost all. What do you think about why people overrate someone like this?" Okay, I love Bruce Lee, love him to death like many martial artists. Bruce Lee motivated and inspired me in many ways as a younger man to learn martial arts. And when I see disingenuine, straight-up falsehoods being propagated about Bruce Lee, it's upsetting. And I think it would upset Bruce Lee as well, because he was all about pursuing honest truth as far as martial arts goes. So making up lies, trying to inflate Bruce Lee to superhuman status is a disservice to the man that these people are trying to honor. So let's take a look at some of these alleged world records, and then look at some actual world records. So the video starts out by saying that Bruce Lee, formerly known as Li Junfan, born in 1940 in San Francisco, California. He was a martial arts pioneer and a philosopher. Okay, so far so good. It says UFC pioneer. That's not true. Now, a number of years ago, Dana White came out and started popularizing the idea that Bruce Lee was the father of MMA. But the pioneers of the UFC, no, that had nothing to do with Bruce Lee at all. That was Rorion Gracie and Art Davie, I believe, who started the UFC, and they may have been inspired, at least in part, by movies like Enter the Dragon, a movie about a bunch of martial artists of various backgrounds getting together and fighting on an island. Hey, wasn't Dana White trying to make that happen just recently? Yeah. The founder of Jeet Kune Do, okay, that's true. The super king or kung fu movie star, yeah, sure. Bruce Lee was a great movie star, but at the same time, he hated that term. Star. There's an interview I would love to splice a piece of into this video, but I can't because I would get a copyright strike. But Bruce Lee, it's a black and white one. It's the same interview where he says, "Be like water, my friend." It's that one. It's a long one. Watch the full one. And he will say, he does not want to be remembered as a star, man. He wanted to be remembered as a great actor. So, respect the man, respect his wishes. A lot of people, when I make videos like this, trying to stop the idolizing of the man, stop people from putting him up on a pedestal of unattainable godhood, they think I'm disrespecting the man. No, I am respecting the man's wishes, what he stood for, what he actually taught. Pay attention to what he taught. What else do they say here? This was also the first global promoter of Chinese Kung Fu and the first Chinese actor in Hollywood. I don't know if that is true, but he was definitely the first Kung Fu action star of that magnitude in Hollywood. That's for sure. Okay, but we haven't even got into the myths yet. Here we go. Bruce Lee's 9 world records that have not been broken yet, according to some guy on the internet who knows very little about Bruce Lee and very little about world records. Number 1, he could kick a 45-kilogram sandbag by sidekicking. Okay, this is that caliber of video. Bruce Lee could kick a 45-kilogram sandbag by sidekicking it. Surely nobody has ever kicked a heavy bag before with a sidekick. That's never been done, especially not a 45-kilogram heavy bag. I mean, I'm going to have to weigh the heavy bags that I have kicked. They might be 45.5, 45.2, who knows? But sidekicks, ooh, that's going to be a tough record to break. So, number 2, using the nunchaku, knocking out 1,600 pounds force. Now, I did some digging trying to figure out how much power can nunchucks actually generate, and there's not a great deal of information about that. I've spent a lot of time as a younger man playing with nunchucks, whipping them around, and from time to time accidentally hitting myself in the head with them, and when you get those going pretty fast, it definitely hurts. It generates some force. I don't know how much. Pounds of force. That doesn't tell us a great deal. I've heard force, as far as like impact force, measured a number of different ways. I've seen it measured as pounds per square inch. National Geographic did a special on martial arts a number of years ago where they measured the punching power of various martial artists. And out of all the martial artists they measured, the heavyweight boxer had a measured output of about 900 pounds per square inch, PSI, of force generated by his punch, according to how they were measuring it. Now, none of that technology to measure the force of a punch, let alone the force of nunchucks, existed in the days of Bruce Lee, so this is just pure fabrication. I looked up how many world records there were for nunchucks, and none of them had anything to do with force. It was how many times in 1 minute a guy was able to hit a target with a pair of nunchucks. It was somewhere around 300. And then the most people gathered to assemble for a nunchuck class, like 500 people, something like that. Those are the only Guinness Book of World Records regarding nunchucks that I am aware of. So, number 3. Bruce Lee could hit a 9 punch in only 1 second, and a 150-pound man could be fallen back 5 to 6 meters to the ground by his 1-inch punch. Now, obviously, the English is not perfect here, but it sounds like he's trying to say that Bruce Lee could throw 9 punches in 1 second. And if we're going for world records, I don't know if Bruce Lee could do that. We don't have any video evidence of Bruce Lee doing that. There may be some anecdotal evidence of people saying, yeah, Bruce Lee could do that, he was that fast. I don't know. But is 9 punches in 1 second the world record? No! Not even close. You can look up dozens of videos here on YouTube of people throwing significantly more than 9 punches in 1 second. Some of them are pretty impressive. Some of them are basically just drumming in the air very quickly. If you watch drummers who are very fast at drumming, they are able to move their hands around much, much, much faster than 9 times per second. And yeah, man, being able to flail your arms very quickly doesn't tell us really anything about punching. It doesn't. It doesn't tell us anything about power, accuracy, the ability to inflict damage, and certainly nothing about being able to handle yourself in a fight against a live resisting human being. Now, that next one, that he could knock a 150-pound man back 5 to 6 meters to the ground by his 1-inch punch. Now, if you watch Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch demo, hey, let's take a look at that. His 1-inch punch and his 6-inch punch demos up here. He's not knocking them to the ground. They're standing in a parallel stance in front of a chair. The force of that punch pushes them back. Since they're in that unstable stance with that chair behind them and nowhere to put their legs, boom, they fall into the chair. Check out this video clip of myself and my student Nelson showing you how the 1-inch push technique works. Yeah, I said push because you are pushing people with that punch. You are displacing an object, because two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. And so when you extend your fist, what happens? The object that you punch gets displaced and it moves, and if they're standing in an unstable position, they get pushed over. Now, is there a world record for that? The world record for the man pushed the longest distance with a 1-inch punch. Well, if he was, he probably didn't have a chair standing behind them, because that would stop how far he would go. Anyway, if you're standing in an unstable stance, yeah, there are just way too many variables in that equation, particularly in regards to the man standing up to make that any reliable world record. Now, we're not even talking about martial arts or applicability in a fight here. We're just talking about world records. Alright, number 4, Bruce Lee could easily insert the fingers into an unopened can of Coca-Cola. Well, that's not unique, man. Look that up on YouTube. You can see a bunch of teenagers poking their fingers through cans of Coke and various other canned beverages. And check out this martial arts demonstration. This great martial arts demonstration. This martial artist broke a bunch of bricks and did a bunch of really cool stunts here. And he jams each and every one of his fingers through a can. And yeah, man, he did that a bunch of times. This is not a world record held by Bruce Lee. This is something that people who train to jam their fingers through a stiff object like a soda can are able to do. It has been done since, many times over. Not a world record. Number 5. Punching power of 350 pounds. Again, there is no record of Bruce Lee's punching power. The ability to measure that in any scientifically reliable way did not exist during Bruce Lee's lifetime. Again, if we're using pounds, let's assume it's pounds per square inch. Again, go back to that National Geographic special where the heavyweight boxer, throwing a straight right hand, exerted about 900 pounds of force, which was considerably more than all of the other martial artists that they measured punching power from. So 350 pounds, I think that was even lower than the lowest martial artist that they measured that day, who was a kung fu specialist, generated something like 450 pounds of pressure per square inch with his punches. Muhammad Ali, again, we don't have any records of his punching power because instruments to measure that did not exist back in those days. Number 6. Bruce Lee could kick 6 legs in 1 second using his signature move, step sidekick, kicking away a 200-pound man about 200 meters falling into the pool. Okay, there's a lot to unpack in this one. This isn't just a claim at one world record. This is a claim at many, all in one. So let's unpack it. Bruce Lee could kick 6 legs in one. Okay, if I had 3 guys line up, right, all there at once, side by side, and I could kick all their legs at once. They're 6 legs at once, but I think he means he could throw 6 kicks in 1 second. So I did some research to see what the fastest kick is, and there was no record to count the number of kicks thrown in 1 second. Instead, we had records for the most kicks thrown in 1 minute, and the most kicks thrown in 1 minute that I found was, let's see here, what was that? 335 kicks in 1 minute. If we divide that by 60 seconds, that comes out to be 5.58 kicks per second. Okay? So, again, that is the Guinness World Record right now of the fastest number of kicks per second. And if we take a look at what those kicks actually look like, look right here. They're these little pitter-patter drumming with the feet type of kicks, just paddling. There simply is not enough time to chamber, rechamber a kick to get any significant amount of power. Now that's an impressive feat of control over this man's hip flexors and his legs. Admirable amount of control. You know, great stunt right there. I'm not slighting this man in the least. I mean, that's impressive. That is really impressive. If you can do that, 335 times in a minute, I'm sure this guy has some pretty impressive individual kicks. His signature stepping sidekick move. He could kick away a 200-pound man about 20 meters, falling into the pool. So they're suggesting that Bruce Lee set up a stunt where he had a man stand 20 meters away from a pool, a swimming pool maybe, and then did a stepping sidekick, because who wouldn't want to volunteer to get stepping sidekicked by Bruce Lee? Anyway, and the man went flying through the air 20 meters into a pool. Let's talk about how long, about what kind of distance 20 meters is. Let's give you some empirical facts, some things to compare this to. That's 65 feet for my American viewers. How long is 65 feet, or 20 meters? It's about 1 1/10 times as long as a bowling lane. So if you go bowling, yeah, Bruce Lee kicking people all the way down the bowling lane. Woo, strike. It's about 1 3/10 times as tall as the Hollywood sign. So folks out in Los Angeles, California, you see that sign? It's bigger than that. It's about 1 1/3 times as long as a semi-trailer. 1 1/3 times as long as a semi-trailer. Man, you see a trucker going down the road? Bruce Lee is apparently sidekicking people over those things, man. That's how powerful those sidekicks were, according to this guy. It's about 7/10 as long as a baseball base distance. So basically, if Bruce Lee kicked a baseball player from the home plate to first base, he would overshoot that and go into the outfield. It's about 1 1/2 times as tall as a brachiosaurus. You know, only one of the largest dinosaurs to ever have lived. It's about 1 4/5 times as tall as a telephone pole. Yes, apparently Bruce Lee could kick fools up as high and over the top of telephone poles. It's about 2 1/2 times as long as a London City bus. Bruce Lee could kick people over 2 buses from the sound of it. It's about 2/5 as tall as the Arc de Triomphe, for French fans out there. So Bruce Lee could not kick people over the Arc de Triomphe, but they would probably die from the fall on the way down. It's about 1/3 as tall as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, for Italian fans out there. It's about 3 times as tall as a giraffe. Man, stack 3 giraffes on top of each other, Bruce Lee could kick a 200-pound man over that giraffe with a sidekick. It's about 1/4 as tall as a giant sequoia tree. And I bet Bruce Lee could chop down that sequoia tree with his sidekick too, couldn't he? It's about 1/5 as tall as the Statue of Liberty, and Bruce Lee would liberate you from your life with that sidekick. And it's about 1/10 as tall as the Great Pyramid of Giza, so Bruce Lee would have to kick that 200-pound man, well, how much? About 10 times to get him to the top of the Great Pyramid. And, of course, it's 9 times the height of Andre the Giant, which begs the question, how far could Bruce Lee kick Andre the Giant? And how many other Andre the Giants would Bruce Lee be able to sidekick the actual Andre the Giant over the top of? Now, the world must know. The next claim for Bruce Lee's world records is that Bruce Lee could do about 1,500 push-ups in a row with 2 hands. And then some claims about how many he could do with 1 hand and with 1 finger, 2 fingers, his thumbs, etc. Now, I know Bruce Lee was a huge proponent of push-ups, physical fitness. He did push-ups all the time. He did demos doing push-ups with his thumbs, with his index fingers, and those are impressive feats. But as far as 1,500 push-ups being the world record, That's just simply not true. The world record for push-ups, let's read that, is held by a Japanese man named Minoru Yoshida, with a world record of 10,507 consecutive push-ups. Now that, my friends, is impressive. Well, hey friends, my prayers have been answered, because this same video, making the claim about Bruce Lee being able to kick a man 65 meters, has also answered my question about how many Andre the Giants Bruce Lee could kick the actual Andre the Giant over the top of. Okay, it says Bruce Lee could kick a 135 kilogram gunny bag, which is about the weight of Andre the Giant, I believe. I'll have to look up that exact number. But, you know, big dude, right? To the height of a one-story house, or about 5 meters. So, according to this, Bruce Lee could kick one Andre the Giant over the top of about 2 Andre the Giants, maybe 2, and one of them holding his hands up over his head. Yeah, now we're talking. But I couldn't find any world record for this subject, and there's no evidence whatsoever of Bruce Lee doing this, or really any of these other things. So, next. The next claim of Bruce Lee's world records is that he could hold a 34 kilogram barbell straight out in front of him and hold it for 20 seconds after stretching out his arm, and then take it back, and that he could hold a 56 kilogram barbell flat and stop for a minute. Now that sounds like a really impressive feat, especially for a guy Bruce Lee's size, so I had to look up the actual world record to see who held the record for holding a weight out in front of them for the longest. That record is held by a Russian named Anatoly Ezhov, hope I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, who held a 20 kilogram or 44.09 pound weight with an outstretched arm, single outstretched arm, for exactly 2 minutes and 39 seconds. That is the established world record as of the 21st of May, 2017. So, where that claim about Bruce Lee holding out these weights came from, I'm confused about that. Because Bruce Lee actually kept a gym card. Do you know what that is? Some people still do it today, but it was fairly common back in the old days. When people would go into a weightlifting gym, they would get a gym card, they would write down their schedule, this is what I'm going to lift, and then they would check it off, this is what I lifted. This is how my reality met up with the expectations. And that's a smart thing to do. Bruce Lee set some great examples as far as physical fitness. He was way into training. One thing I love about him is that Bruce Lee advocated strength training in a big way for martial artists, and for a very long time before, for a very long time afterward, and even today, many martial artists, especially traditional martial artists who love Bruce Lee, are adamantly opposed to strength training. There's this idea that if they pick up a weight, it's gonna, ruin their game. And yet their idol, Bruce Lee, was teaching them through example, pick up some weights and get strong. It's good for you. It'll make you a better fighter. But if you look at Bruce Lee's actual gym cards, the numbers aren't these crazy off-the-wall numbers. They weren't superhuman strength. It was pretty average stuff for a guy his size. In fact, some of the numbers were way below average. For example, 90-pound squat for 10 reps. Yeah, that's from his own gym cards, his own handwriting. And I don't think he was out there trying to set any powerlifting records, but a 90-pound squat for 10 reps is not a lot for a man who weighed between 135 pounds and 165 pounds, which was Bruce Lee at his biggest. It's not a lot. So was he setting records in the gym? Nope, not even close. Let's be honest. Let's be honest to the man, the myth, the legend. Let's lay off the myth part. And let's be real about the man, who he was, what he actually stood for, what he taught, what he represented. Martial arts is a pursuit of the truth. Bruce Lee understood that. And I hope that the people who love him, or at least pretend to love him, will start to understand that too. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.